Thank you very much, Dr. J. And let me first of all start by thanking you, Dr. J, and my good friend Debussy, for inviting me to say a word at this launching. This collection of poems landed in my hands, and I was very excited about it. And as soon as I received it, I put it on my Facebook and my Facebook page. And almost all of a sudden, I got the reactions I didn't expect. Everybody wrote to me, called me. We were waiting for your book. Now we have it. Thank you very much. We have been waiting for this, man. What are you doing? And I was baffled. I called Debussy and I said, man, listen, this is becoming embarrassing. I mean, this is your book and everybody's busy thanking me for it, you know. And Debussy said, well, the eagle has landed. That's what he said. And, you know, he said that at the moment when I was just reading something about the eagle, you know, Apollo 11, eagle that landed on the moon on the 20th of July, 1969. And I've been reading about that, saying, hey, that is coming up very soon. I always remember that day because it's just a few days short of my own birthday. So this book landed in my hands, and I was very excited about it. And, you know, I thank you very much. I've read all the poems over and over again. And I thank the publishers, Professor Jude Fonquang and his team. I now discovered that Lillian works with you. You know, Lillian is one person I read very extensively, and I'm very pleased with what she writes in other domains. So this book is it's clearly visible in this book, sounding to me, I'm not talking as a literary person now, I'm talking as somebody who is reacting to the book, just as an ordinary reader. Clearly visible in the book is the destruction of our land. When I was reading these poems, I engaged all my senses into it. I could see the destruction, the piles and piles of bloated bodies rotting in the villages. I could see our houses being torched and our farms being destroyed. Those ring throughout the poems. And then, of course, the awful stench of rotting bodies and rotting material in our streets and our homes being destroyed. These come out very clearly. And I was particularly touched by the wails and the helpless cries of men and women running into the bushes, and particularly the agony of women who were in childbirth and gave birth to children in the bushes, and those children did not survive. And in that regard, let me share with you just a verse from one of the poems I read, and the author prefers anonymity at the moment, and I respect that. He writes, pain, blood, she wailed. She lay helpless and helpless. Her cheeks drowned in the pool of tears as hugely violent contractions stretched her abdomen to dolorous limits. Blood, like she had never seen before. She pushed and she pushed and she pushed. A piercing, tender cry filled the air. The baby was out. It cried again and again. Then suddenly it cried no more. She lay helpless and helpless. It's just a verse from one of the poems that struck me. And in all these poems, someone like me reading it for the delight of it, I could hear the voice of the prophet Jeremiah in the Bible, where the prophet Jeremiah talks of a voice has been heard on high, a lamentation, a mourning and weeping, the voice of Rachel crying for her children and refusing to be consoled over them because they are no more. So there are Rachels and Rachels and wretches throughout these poems, lamenting, weeping, mourning, and refusing to be comforted because their children are no more. And what also struck me here is that this lamentation is not only coming from what we call the ground zero. And it's a good thing you people also included the poems of Francophone writers, because the lamentation you can also hear coming from, if you listen very carefully in these poems, You could hear the lamentations coming also from the hamlets of Ebolova, from Akonolinga, from Bertua, from Garua, from Kusiri, from Chang, you name them. These are families there too who are mourning because their children are being killed. Their children are sent to kill people in ground zero, but they in turn are being killed, which is very unfortunate. So families there too are mourning their loved ones, just as we are mourning from our end. That shows the senselessness and the futility of this war, as I could read from these poems. And there's a case in point which I would like to mention, although it does not come out clearly in the poem. I mean, it doesn't come out in the poems at all, because when I was reading these poems, and one of the beauty of these poems is that when you read them, all of a sudden you see the kind of poem you could have written if you too had written a poem. I didn't write any poem on it, although I received all the accolades and the encomiums that were meant for Debussy and Dr. J. I'd like to thank you for that, because all of a sudden I realized what fame can do to you. Anyway, so this, there's a case of a girl I heard who came from somewhere, I don't know, a Konolinga or a Bolova, to Bamenda. She was a soldier, joined the army and was sent over there. And she arrived in Bamenda, and a few days later, she was sent to man the post on Sabga Hill. And Sabga Hill has a lot of meaning for me, because Sabga Hill is a place I go through when I'm going to my village. Sabga is, below Sabga lies the Dot Plain, for those who know the area. And on the other side of Dot Plain, there are other hills. And from that hill, you can even see my home right from there. So that's where my parents buried my umbilical cord when I was born. So that's an area which has a lot of meaning for me. But this poor girl came to Sabga, and barely a day or two when she was posted there, she was killed. And so, the memory of this poor girl too, who I did not know, who probably felt a lot more at ease and secure behind the huge trees in our forest area, was exposed in Sabga, and she was killed there. And also when I read these poems, I thought, hey, this is one poor girl who is representative of many other children from the poor homes from that side of the country who are sent and are being killed every day. They're killing our people, but they're also being killed. But then what came to my mind too was that these are the children of poor people. None of the people who are prosecuting this senseless war from Yaoundé, none of their children is there. Their children are abroad. They're in their homes in the 16th district of Paris, where probably they are snorting cocaine there, I don't know. But the children are safely out of the way. And these are the people prosecuting the war, this senseless war in Cameroon. So the children of the poor too from that area are dying. And it was very consoling to me to see that you people included some of the poems written by French-speaking Cameroonians, which was good. So they talked to us about the professionalism of the soldiers, but how you talk about professionalism when people are burning homes and destroying crops and all these things, virtually rendering our people homeless and without any food. And these things come out very clearly in these poems. And these poems too echo, for me, the condemnation, or the poets too condemn, in a sense, those of our own sons and daughters who are engaging in acts of vandalism and in acts of hooliganism. These are people who started the war, or people who were forced into the war, and they posed as the liberators of our people. But as this war drags on and on and on, they have become now the people who are holding our people hostage and asking for ransom, kidnapping people left and right. And the sad thing about it all is that even some of our people who are abroad are cautioning this type of thing. I heard somebody saying, when you see somebody come from abroad, kidnap him because he or she is bringing money. This is really a very sad thing that is happening to our people. And I applaud the editors too for including poems in Pidgin. Dr. J already mentioned that. I hadn't, up until I read some of these poems, I hadn't known that poems in Pidgin could sound so musical. And so, you know, they bring out the emotions to the surface so easily. Pidgin is a lingua franca, the language we all speak so well. In fact, I communicate with my neighbors in Douala, who are pure Douala mothers in Douala, better in Pidgin than in French. So it's a language that cuts across our country. So I applaud you for that. And also, let me not take much of your time. Let me just end my contribution by saying that I am happy to see that you have ended this collection with a poem of hope. And I think the professor from Sierra Leone did mention too the notion of hope. There is hope for us at the horizon. And if you would permit me, let me read this poem. It is by Lillian Lem Atanga. It's the last poem in the collection. And that touched me really very much, and I congratulate Lillian for it. And she writes, Songs of Hope. She sang songs of hope as she trudged through the forest, oblivious of her destination. She had only one thought in mind: she will survive. She will make it out alive. She couldn't remember how long she had been walking when she had her last meal or her last bath. Nothing mattered anymore. Not the weeping pregnant woman she saw, nor the babies hanging onto their mother's forlorn breast. Nothing mattered anymore. Not the hungry dog that wouldn't give up on her, nor the frightening gunshots nearby, nor the mosquitoes sticking or sucking her dry. She kept on trudging along the muddy path, knowing no one would follow her this far into the forest. She could remember the fire gutting her house and people frantically dragging her away. She refused to budge. Her bedridden grandmother was trapped inside, her only living relative. Her baby brother had been felled by a bullet, returning from the farm, a lock of wood on his head and a machete in his hand, branded an amber boy and executed on the spot. His youth, a death sentence it became. Their death, her strength, their blood, her endurance, the fire, her determination, the hate, her steam. Even as her energy drained and her voice faded, she could not stop singing songs of hope. And these are, you writers are really those people who will bring hope to us, even in the midst of this destruction. Thank you very much. God bless.
Thank you so much. And